Hi besties. It's been a minute. I haven't made a video in a really long time. I kind of gave up on my channel in 2022 and I didn't know if I was gonna come back, and I still don't know if I'm coming back. But January is honestly like my favorite month and I just feel so productive, and I always get super into reading in January regardless of my reading status before. I just read so many books and I want to talk about them, and I have just been dipping my toes back into watching booktube videos and getting excited and all of that jazz. So I'm here and hope you guys are happy about that. So this is gonna be a reading vlog. I don't know if it's gonna be like a weekly vlog or what's gonna be, but I have some exciting things today and hopefully for the rest of the week. Today I am going to a silent book club, which is basically like you just go to a location and you bring a book and then you read for an hour, and then after that hour is over you can like continue reading or you can socialize with other people. I do live in Seattle, so the likelihood of me socializing with other people is probably a little low, but I'm gonna try, okay? I'm gonna try to make friends. But before I do that, also just got my hair done. There is nothing more powerful to a Leo than having fresh hair. So if I keep staring at myself, that's why. Anyways, so I have some books to talk about with you guys. So I just got a new book. I finally bought Radiance by Grace Draven for myself. This was on my top books of 2021, I believe, but honestly, time is a blur. Mina Reeds is the person that put me onto this. It's basically like a marriage of convenience, but also friends to lovers. These two are like grotesque by each other. Is that a word? They do not find each other attractive in the slightest, so they build a friendship and then they start being attracted to each other. One of the best romances I've ever read, certainly the best fantasy romance I've ever read, and I'm so happy to finally have a physical copy. I want to reread it and tab it right now, but we are resisting the urge to do that, at least for the moment. And then I went to the library for the first time in a really long time. I was reading quite a bit in 2022, but it was all just audiobooks. Like I rarely read anything physically unless it was on my Kindle. We're remedying that because I miss having a book in my hand. I got The Lost Girls by Sonia Hart. I know that this is a retelling of The Lost Boys, which is a movie that I still have not watched, and that's another thing that I need to remedy because I know it's about vampires and it's homoerotic and I need to watch it. So maybe I can do a little double feature, even though it's not a double feature because it's a book, but you guys know what I mean. Watch the movie, read the book. That could be a thing that could happen. I also got Skin of the Sea, which I think this came out in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, like early 2022. Oh, nope, 2021. Well, that's embarrassing. I have had this on my TBR ever since like the cover was released, and I don't know really anything about it. You guys know me, or maybe you don't because it's been a while. Anything with a sea setting, I like, and it's a fantasy, and like, again, this cover is absolutely gorgeous. Another oldie that's been on my TBR for a while, Fate of the Fallen by Kel Kane. This I know is about the best friend of like the destined hero of this fantasy plot, and the hero ends up dying, so the best friend ends up trying to like complete the prophecy or something like that. Again, I've had this on my TBR for a while. It's a fairly short fantasy read, and I'm trying to get back into my fantasy era. 2022 was my year of romance and it was fun and I still enjoy it, but I haven't had a like good fantasy read in a very long time, and I need it to happen for me. So continuing on that trend, we have The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin never lets me down, even with the 5th season, which is a genre that I am just like not really a fan of. It was still a good time, so I know that regardless, I will enjoy my reading experience of this. I know that this is about all of the boroughs of New York, and they're like personified. That's all I know about it. All right, I'm almost done. Oh my gosh, my cat, Pandora. Let's make formal introductions now. Quick intermission to introduce you guys to my kitty cat. This is Pandora. She is the love of my life and the bringer of all chaos. Not really. She's actually the sweetest cat to ever live, and she's never done anything wrong in her entire life. Except interrupt my video. almost done here, just 2 more books. The Bones of Ruin. I also think this came out in like 2021. So I'm just like really, yep, 2021. I'm really behind, but this was another one that was on my new releases that I was anticipating. All I know is this is about a tightroper who can't die. Don't know anything else. I think there might be a heist involved. It's in Victorian London, which I really don't like the Victorian era. I think it's very overdone. Like, it's getting to like World War II territory in the fact of like oversaturation of the market, but it's okay because it's diverse and own voices. So at least it'll bring that to the table. And last book I have is The Bladed Faith by David Dalglish. This is a thick boy. It's an adult fantasy, so not great for me trying to just get back into fantasy, but I have the audiobook on hold for my library, so that should make things a lot easier. This is an adult fantasy. There's a long synopsis that I don't really feel like reading right now, but I know that this has to do with like an assassin, and I love assassins. The only thing I want to read truly right now is the Nevernight trilogy, like over and over and over again, but that's not realistic for me to do that. So maybe we can find something to, if not replace that, at least give me that itch that I need. So that's it for my little haul. I am in the middle of a couple books right now, but this clip is already a little too long, so I'll update you guys about those later. But other than that, I have a couple hours before my little book club thing, so I'll probably read or do something to waste my time before that. So I will check in with y'all later. I almost forgot how fun it was to try to find different angles in my house to film, but glad to see that I'm still very successful at it. Last night was very successful. I did end up bringing The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I got about 80 pages into this, so I can talk to you about a little bit. I was right about it being about the boroughs of New York, but it's a little different than what I was expecting. I was under the impression that the boroughs were already gonna know who they were and what their purpose was and all of that, and they were gonna kind of tell us, or we were gonna find out through them, but I was mistaken. So the prologue actually starts with one New York, like one person representing New York, and then by the end of the prologue it splits into 5 different people and 5 different boroughs, and then you're going to meet the boroughs as they find each other. And we start off with Manhattan. He has no idea who he is. He has lost all memory of himself prior to this big thing that happened. So it's a bit of a confusing reading experience because Manny's confused, we're confused, we don't know what's happening, they don't know what's happening. So it's a little bit harder to get into at the moment for that reason. I do kind of wish I knew a little bit more about New York because I feel like I'm missing out on some references that are being plopped into here. But as someone who has no knowledge of it, it's still fun to read about, you know? So it's not a deterrent. I just do feel like I'm missing some like inside jokes, if you know what I mean. But still fun. Hopefully I can get into this a little bit more and sink my teeth into it. I also am about 30% into Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and let me tell you guys, This is an absolute batshit crazy of a book, okay? If you don't know, the basic rundown of this story is it is a white author who steals the manuscript of an Asian American, very prestigious, very successful author once she dies and poses it as her own. It is just so meta. It is so satirical. I just know that R.F. Kuang had a fucking blast writing this. It's just wild being in the head of this delusional white woman. When I read that she called stealing the manuscript of this successful woman of color as reparations, I knew I was in for a ride. And let me tell you, I'm strapped in. I'm buckled in. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go anywhere R.F. Kuang is gonna take me. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I'm probably not gonna do like a proper review of this book because of this like subject matter, and it is just so far not my place to do so. But I can tell you right now, pre-order this book, cause wow, wow, wow. I'm gonna give y'all a proper update that looks a lot better angle-wise and me-wise, but I started and finished Honey and Spice, and this is so serious. This book, one of the best romances I've ever read, like top 5, maybe top 3. Like, this is so serious, you guys. Pandora is agreeing with me. You hear her? I just need you guys to witness my speechlessness. This book. This book. Please let me in. Kai, Kiki, please let me in. Please let me in. Please. Alright y'all, it's time to talk about Honey and Spice. I started this on audio like a couple days ago and I pretty much just binged it all the way through. This is following our main character Kiki, and she has this podcast at her university where she talks about like relationships and drama and pretty much anything and everything, and she gets the opportunity to go to New York for this program. In order to get into the program, she has to build upon a creative project that she already has, and so she enlists the help of Malachi, who is the new kid at school and also a certified like player, and they get in a fake dating scenario in order to like stir up interest in her podcast and also Malachi's own like filming project that he's also doing. I was so in love with Kiki and Kai's banter throughout this whole entire book. Their chemistry leaks off the page. I'm gonna need all of the little girly pops who were obsessed with Brendan from It Happened One Summer, me included, to pick up this book and give it the attention it deserves, because Brendan and his little shopping spree that he does has nothing on Kai. Nothing. Kai's acts of service in this book and him just like constantly wooing Kiki and all of the things that he did for her in this book is romance. The pinnacle of romance. This man not only read her favorite fantasy romance series, but literally dressed up as the love interest. I am so obsessed with them. It's my first 5-star read of the year. Like, this is it. And I know I have seen this on a few list for best books of 2022, but not nearly enough. I don't understand why it wasn't on every single person's list this year, because this is it. This is romance. I am still reading Yellowface. I got a little bit more into that. I gotta be honest, it's getting a little not slower for me, not repetitive necessarily, but I am feeling the page count with this book. So those are my updates for you right now. I'll check back in later once I have something else to say about the things I'm reading, but yeah, hope we're having a great time. I don't know what my bangs are doing right now. They're doing their own thing, and you know what? Good for them. So I finished Yellowface by R.F. Kuang last night, and it was just incredible. As I said earlier in the vlog, I'm not really gonna do a full-fledged review of this book just because I don't think I have anything of value really to say, and I think other people will be able to provide more fruitful discussions surrounding this book than I would. But all I can say is this was the messiest, batshit crazy meta experience of a book that I read, and I enjoyed every last bit of it. I highly recommend you guys watch Monty's vlog of this book because, as always, they have great opinions and are able to sum it up. I also definitely agree that I think you would enjoy this book the most if you just sat down and binged it. I think I did do myself a disservice in not binging it all in one go because it did end up dragging a little bit for me, and as I said, I think it is slightly longer than I think it should have been, but regardless of that, I still really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend this for anybody who is interested because at the very least a crazy ride that I enjoyed being on. The audiobook that I started was Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May, I think is the author's name. I found this book when I was just walking through my local bookstore and it seemed really interesting. I just browsed through the Goodreads really quickly and then I placed a hold on my library, started listening to it, and to my surprise, this book is not only like a Great Gatsby retelling with witches, but it's gay as hell. The joy that I feel when I blindly pick up a book and it ends up being gay, I am always winning. This is about our main character who moves to this Crow Island that has kind of a reputation for being very witchy, and there's like a lot of witches that live in this island, and there's lots of like magic surrounding it, and our main character isn't really interested in that, but her father recently passed away and he had an estate there, so she has to go and just like pack up his things, and while she's there, her neighbor throws very lavish parties and is this really hot masked lesbian witch that has some dealing with someone she knows on the island. I am very much enjoying this book. Today I am going to be doing lots of things. I'm going to be deep cleaning my apartment because it heavily needs that. I'm gonna go grocery shopping. So I have no doubt that I will finish this book. I will update you guys when that happens. Okay, it's time for the Trader Joe's haul. I'm only gonna show you guys the interesting stuff because nobody needs to see what kind of rice I get. But I'm gonna show you guys my holy grail Trader Joe items that I never leave without buying. The first being the sun-dried tomato focaccia bread. I will cut these in like little slices and make bruschetta as like a really fancy breakfast moment. And then I put the garlic spread dip on top of the bread with like some macerated tomatoes and everything, and a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar. Pandora, do you mind, ma'am? Anyway, so I am obsessed with this garlic dip. This is for the garlic girls, and I am a garlic girl. I will eat this with a spoon. I don't, but I would if I needed to. I also love the buffalo style chicken dip. I don't always get this dip, but I am hosting a little movie game night at my place, and every single time I host anything, this is a staple. Speaking of hosting, I did pick up 2 little soft cheeses. Goat cheese is my all-time favorite cheese, like ever. And I have tried these multiple times and I love them. This is like an herbal one. And then this is a honey goat cheese, and they're both delicious with the garlic naan crackers, which are another favorite of mine. The other 3 items I haven't tried, but I got these noodles that have a really weird shape to them. They're like really squiggly, so we'll see how those taste. And then this is also a new item, the red pepper and almond pesto sauce. Always need to have a pasta sauce in the house for, again, when I'm too lazy to easily just make my own. And then lastly, the most important part, the wine to go with the pasta. I got a Montepulciano, which is one of my favorite reds, and they had a new one and it was featured, so we're gonna try that baby out tonight, you best believe. Here is my haul. It's a beautiful, beautiful bounty that cost me way too much money because we're in a recession. All right, you guys, so I just finished cleaning and I did end up finishing Wild and Wicked Things, and I really, really enjoyed this. This is definitely a strong 4 out of 5 stars. As I said earlier, this is very much Great Gatsby with witches, but also has vibes of like practical magic in there. I really enjoyed the romance in here. Annie and Emmeline were really giving me YA couple feeling, and not in like a demeaning way, but more so just gave me the vibes of when I was a teenager and I was reading like City of Bones or Shadow and Bone and all of those really cheesy YA romances, and the butterflies that you would get when reading them. They were giving me very similar feels, and I always love when a book is able to make me feel that way because, again, it reminds me of like a simpler time when I would just binge a book at like 4 a.m. and then have to go to school the next day, you know? And this book kind of gave me a little tease of that, so I really appreciated it. I highly recommend this. I don't know if anybody has been talking about it. I have personally never heard of it again before walking through my bookstore, and I'm really glad that I read it. So if this intrigues you at all, I highly recommend it. The only downside to this is it easily could have been Polly. It easily could have been Polly, and so a star has to get knocked off for just the principle of it, because it would have been immaculate. But with that, we are going to end this weekly vlog here. I do have a couple ideas for my next vlog or 2. I definitely want to do a vlog centered on me, like catching up on past anticipated releases, because I have quite a few that would definitely warrant a whole entire vlog for that. I also recently got my hold on Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo because I want to reread that before I read Hellbent. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!